A waiter humiliated a boy with Down syndrome in a luxury restaurant. The boy's mother stood frozen, overwhelmed with shame and regret for bringing her son to a place that suddenly felt too polished, too cold, too cruel. She wished she could disappear, or at least take him far away from the whispers, the glances, the silence. But everything changed when someone approached their table. A quiet man in a baseball cap. It was Keanu Reeves. Friends, let us know in the comments under what conditions you watch this video. In the background, while working, or during lunch. Also, don't forget to subscribe, because tomorrow another emotional story will be waiting for you. Downtown Los Angeles pulsed with evening life. The city glowed with neon signs, the hum of cars, and hundreds of voices blending with music spilling from open bar windows. And in the very heart of that bustle, tucked between towering skyscrapers and luxury hotels, stood a restaurant everyone knew, the kind of place you went to impress. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the night skyline. Inside, the lighting was soft and elegant, the decor minimalistic and modern, the white tablecloths pristine. Dishes looked more like artwork than meals. Everything whispered one word: status. No one came here just to eat. They came to perform success. Young professionals in designer jackets, women in shimmering gowns, businessmen with heavy watches and heavier stares. They sat at tables, smiling, clinking glasses of wine, taking selfies, and glancing discreetly at each other. It was beautiful and cold. Then the door opened, and she stepped inside. Lisa, 48 years old, a knee-length dark skirt, a crisp white blouse, and a plain gray handbag over her shoulder. Everything about her was neat, clean, carefully chosen with love. But it was also clear, she didn't belong here. She held herself a bit too tightly, like someone stepping into a world where she didn't know the rules. Her fingers brushed the strap of her bag nervously. Her eyes scanned the room, searching, not for beauty, but for guidance. How to act, how not to embarrass herself. Beside her stood Michael, 17, Down syndrome. His eyes sparkled. His smile wouldn't leave his face. His hair was combed neatly to the side. His shirt was ironed, buttoned all the way up. Around his neck, a navy blue tie, the one his mom had just taught him to tie. "Mom, Michael paused, took a breath, then quietly whispered, "I want to say, good evening. I would like to order fettuccine alfredo and lemonade." "Good evening, I would like." "You're doing great," Lisa smiled at him, though her heart clenched inside. She knew what this night meant to him, how deeply he wanted to get it right. It was his birthday. 17, just 1 year away from adulthood. And for her, another reminder of how fast time was flying. She remembered every moment the doctors had told her what he'd never do, never speak, never read, never understand. She remembered sitting beside his crib, whispering, "I won't give up, and you don't give up either." And now, here he was, in a tie, in a restaurant, rehearsing a sentence to order food on his own, for the first time. They were guided to a table by the window. The view was breathtaking. Michael lit up, gazing out with wide eyes, though now and then he quietly repeated his practiced line. Lisa looked around. She felt the glances, some curious, some surprised, some annoyed. A few people didn't hide their discomfort at how Michael spoke. Others quickly looked away, pretending not to notice. Waiters passed by them as if they weren't there. Across the room, tucked into a corner booth, sat a man in a baseball cap. Nothing fancy. A jacket, a plain t-shirt, a glass of water on the table. But his eyes, they saw more than most. He glanced at Lisa, paused, then shifted his gaze to Michael. Something about the scene touched him. Not pity, something deeper. A quiet recognition of loneliness in a crowded room. It was Keanu Reeves. He had come here after a long day, just to eat in peace. But tonight, it seemed, this meal would become something much more than a quiet dinner. And he couldn't take his eyes off the table, where a mother gently straightened her son's tie, and a boy smiled and softly whispered, "Good evening. I would like to order fettuccine alfredo and lemonade." Michael sat as straight as he could, hands folded on the table, fingers slightly tense. He repeated his line over and over in his head, then whispered it softly under his breath, barely moving his lips. "Good evening. I would like to order fettuccine alfredo and lemonade. Alfredo pasta. Lemonade." He exhaled, smiled, and looked at his mom. "I'm ready, Mom." Lisa nodded, gently touching his hand. She tried not to show her nervousness, but her heart pounded 3 times faster than usual. She knew how much courage it took for Michael to sit in a crowded restaurant and want to place an order on his own. She knew this was his dream. Tonight, on his birthday. A waiter approached, young, well-groomed, shirt pressed to perfection, holding a sleek notepad with a face that gave away instant disinterest. "Welcome. Ready to order?" he asked, without making eye contact with either Lisa or Michael. Michael took a careful breath, straightened up more, and summoned all his strength to speak. "Guy, good evening. I would like fettuccine alfredo and lemonade." The waiter rolled his eyes. His body made the kind of tiny gesture of irritation that only the completely oblivious would miss. "Maybe Mom can order for you?" he said, letting the sarcasm drip from his voice. Silence fell over the table. Michael lowered his gaze. Lisa instinctively reached for his hand, but stopped herself. She took a deep breath and responded calmly, but firmly. "My son would like to place the order himself." "This is very important to him." The waiter shrugged, not writing anything down. "Look, we've got a lot of customers, and not much time. You're slowing things down, ma'am. For people like you, takeout might be the better option. You understand, this is a restaurant, not a learning center." He pulled a sour face. "You're wasting my time. This is peak hour, and I have multiple tables to serve, not to stand here for 30 minutes. Several people at nearby tables looked up from their plates. One of them smirked, not out of kindness, but with that strange, sticky pleasure some people get from watching others get humiliated. A few others pulled out their phones, pretending to sip from glasses while they started recording. Lisa felt her chin begin to tremble. Michael sat frozen, the smile drained from his face. He stared down at his hands, still folded on the table. He didn't fully understand what just happened, but something inside him shrank, just like his shoulders. Across the room, in the corner booth, the man in the baseball cap set down his glass of water. His fingers curled into a fist, his eyes locked onto the waiter. This wasn't just watching anymore. This was the boiling point. Keanu Reeves sat in silence, witnessing what was unfolding right in front of him. Among glittering chandeliers and trendy hairstyles, something was happening that should never happen. Not here. Not anywhere. The restaurant's reputation began to crack in real time. But something far more fragile had already shattered. The reputation of human decency. And Keanu was already rising from his seat. Keanu rose from his table slowly, but with a quiet confidence that could silence the loudest room. He removed his baseball cap and began walking forward, as if time itself had slowed around him. His face was calm, even gentle, but his eyes were steel. When he reached the table where Lisa and Michael sat, he spoke softly. "Excuse me, would you mind if I joined you?" Lisa flinched slightly. Her eyes widened as she finally recognized the man standing before her. Her lips curled into a stunned smile, but her voice trembled. You're Keanu Reeves?" A ripple of whispers spread across the restaurant. Heads turned. Glasses were set down. People leaned in toward their friends at nearby tables. "Is that him?" That's really him. Phones were already out. Some guests froze mid-bite, transfixed. But no one was more affected than the waiter, who suddenly felt all the color drain from his face. It was as if the entire restaurant's lighting dimmed, except for a single spotlight shining on one table. The one with the boy who just wanted to order his dinner. Keanu sat down across from Michael. His voice was steady, sincere, and calm. "Hi, my name's Keanu. What's your name?" Michael looked up. He blinked, as if unsure whether this was real. Then he swallowed and answered carefully. Michael. Nice to meet you, Michael. I really like your tie. You look incredibly sharp tonight." Michael smiled. His cheeks flushed red. Lisa sat in silence, afraid to break the moment. Keanu leaned in a little closer. "So tell me, Michael, what would you like to order tonight?" Michael glanced at his mom, who gave him the smallest nod. With a spark in his voice, he said, "I would like fettuccine alfredo and lemonade. Please." The words echoed through the silence like a quiet prayer. The restaurant was completely still. No one ate. No one spoke. Everyone was listening. The waiter froze. His notepad hand trembled. He looked at Keanu as if begging for a way out. But Keanu didn't even glance his way. He kept his eyes on Michael, the only person in that room who truly deserved to be heard. "Excellent choice, Michael," Keanu said warmly. "Now, please write that down." The waiter, now robotic, scribbled the words. Keanu then rose slowly from his seat, his presence casting a long shadow over the room. And then he spoke. Not to the waiter, not to Lisa, not even to Michael. He spoke to everyone. "You know," he began, "I've seen a lot in this life, but one thing never stops amazing me. This young man, sitting right here, just spoke with honesty, with bravery, with dignity, while some of you chose to laugh, record, or look away." He took a step forward. That is what real courage looks like. Not flashy clothes, not fancy jewelry, not empty talk about success. Courage is when someone does something they're afraid of, and does it anyway. That's what I just witnessed, and I'm honored to have seen it. The restaurant was silent. Even the clinking of glasses had stopped, and in the stillness of that heavy moment, Lisa smiled, truly smiled, for the first time that night. Through tears, but with pride. The restaurant manager, a man in a sharp suit with a polished name tag, had materialized near the scene as if out of thin air. He stood slightly off to the side, scanning the room like someone calculating how to regain control of a situation spiraling fast. But Keanu's words had already shifted the air. When Keanu's gaze found him, direct, piercing, and impossible to ignore, the manager froze in place. "Your staff believes some people don't deserve to be here," Keanu said. His voice was calm, but each word cracked through the silence like thunder. "And honestly, I agree. Your waiter doesn't belong here." The manager flinched. His lips moved, searching for an excuse. But under the weight of dozens of watching eyes, phones, and Keanu's presence, there was only one thing left for him to do. He stepped forward, addressing Lisa and Michael with a humbled tone. "Please, we deeply apologize. That was completely unacceptable. On behalf of the restaurant, Michael, if you don't mind, would you like to place another order? And Ms. Lisa, we invite you to choose any dessert you'd like. It's all on us." Michael hesitated, then looked up at Keanu. The actor smiled, leaning in just a bit. "It's your night, buddy. Pick whatever you want." Then, Michael glanced at the menu again. "Can I have a cheese pizza?" hand. Vanilla ice cream. Of course, the manager nodded to the waiter, not because he wanted to, but because he had to. And a vanilla ice cream. Lisa looked at her son, then at Keanu, still stunned by everything unfolding. She finally chose a light lemon tart. At that moment, someone in the restaurant started clapping, tentative at first, as if testing the waters. Then another, and another. Within seconds, the entire room erupted in applause. Someone shouted, "Bravo!" Others wiped away tears. Keanu lowered his eyes, as if shy from the attention. But he knew. This wasn't about him. This was about Michael. About his right to be seen, to be heard, to belong. A few guests came up to Lisa. "We support you. I'm sorry we didn't speak up sooner. What happened was wrong. We regret staying silent." Tears rolled down Lisa's cheeks. She couldn't speak, only squeezed the hands of these strangers who now felt like allies. Meanwhile, the waiter, still standing off to the side, was quietly told to take a break. Another server, an older man with kind eyes, stepped in immediately. He rushed to the kitchen to get Michael's order ready, and in the air there was silence again, but not the awkward kind. It was soft, peaceful, like something had shifted. There was kindness in it, awakening, and maybe just a little bit of hope. When the dishes arrived at the table, Michael practically bounced with excitement. His eyes sparkled as if the universe had just handed him a gift wrapped in magic. A steaming cheese pizza, a tall glass of lemonade with a fresh slice of lemon, and a bowl of vanilla ice cream that looked like a cloud of joy. He looked at his mom, then at Keanu, who had quietly returned to sit beside him. "That looks delicious," Keanu said, winking. "I'm a little jealous." "Want a bite?" Michael asked seriously, fork in hand. "I'll definitely ask you for the recipe," Keanu smiled. Michael laughed, a laugh so pure, so unfiltered, that it made others at nearby tables pause and smile too. His laughter wasn't just joy, it was freedom. Tonight, he wasn't different. He wasn't the boy people whispered about. He was just a kid, having dinner on his birthday. Lisa watched her son like she was seeing him for the first time, not the boy defined by diagnoses, by limitations, by what the world told her he couldn't do, but the young man who had just lit up an entire restaurant with his smile. She leaned in quietly to Keanu as Michael focused on his food. "I've wanted to bring him out into the world so many times," she said softly, "but something always stopped me. The stares, the judgment. But tonight I see him. Truly here. Not just existing. He's living." Keanu nodded slowly. "And you gave him that. Not me. You. Because you fight for him every day. You're a strong woman, Lisa. You have no idea how many lives you changed tonight." Her lips trembled. She looked down, trying to hold it together, but the tears came anyway. She didn't speak, just nodded. That was enough. As the meal wound down, Michael leaned toward Keanu and whispered, "You have a nice smile, and thank you for believing in me." Keanu chuckled. "And you have excellent taste in pizza." Michael beamed. "This was my best day ever," he said with conviction, looking Keanu straight in the eye. And in his gaze, there wasn't a hint of fear or doubt. No worry about being interrupted. He knew he was being heard. Before leaving, Keanu quietly approached the front counter while Lisa and Michael put on their jackets. "Please put their meal on me," he said, "and add something special. Let this night stay in their memory like a celebration." The manager nodded. Keanu left a generous tip and slipped out quietly, vanishing into the crowd like a whisper. When Lisa and Michael stepped outside, the evening air was cool, but something warm burned in both of them. Michael held his mother's hand tightly, his fingers gripping hers. He couldn't stop smiling. "Mom, next year, can we go to a restaurant again?" Lisa looked at him and replied, "We will, sweetheart. And you'll order again, and I'll be the happiest mom in the world." The world kept moving, but something in it had changed, forever. In our lives, we often witness how quickly people judge one another, by speech, by appearance, by any trait that doesn't fit the mold of what's considered normal. But who decides what normal is anyway? This story wasn't just about dinner. It was about dignity, about every person's right to be heard, to be accepted, to belong in a world that too often turns its back on those who are seen as different. Michael didn't just order food tonight. He stood up and told the world, "I exist. I matter." And maybe the biggest lesson isn't about Keanu Reeves' act of kindness, as beautiful as it was. It's about how easy it is for each of us to either break or lift someone up, with one word, one glance, one choice. Let's be mindful, especially toward those whom society tends to overlook, because so often they carry the most light, the most sincerity, and the most strength. And if you ever see someone trying to take their small step forward, don't look away. Support them, because maybe, just maybe, that step will change not only their life, but yours. Be sure to share your impressions of the story in the comments and write what conclusions you have drawn after listening to it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I wish you all a good mood and see you in the new video tomorrow.